Hello and welcome to attaQ. My name is Jakob. I'm your host and you're watching a attaQ episode. In this episode, we're going to go through my top 7 synthesizer app picks from 2018. A long sentence and it's weirdly phrased because I'm Swedish, so broken English is expected. Is this thing on? Yep. I don't have much phone memory, so I have to do this quick. If you're feeling impatient and you just want to get to the list, go to this timestamp and the list will start from there. Now, for everyone else, let me just tell you how I went about doing the selection for this top 7 list. I initially had 12 apps I wanted to make a video about, but I felt that a video like that would be too long because I have a lot to say about each and every one of the apps. And I also wanted to make it harder for myself. It felt too easy just making a list about all the synthesizers I already like. So during a year, a lot of apps will come out, and since I don't have that much time checking out every app, I have to select the ones I think would be most interesting to do reviews and videos about, and the stuff that I would like using too, because I have to like the app in order for me to make a video about the app. Otherwise, I wouldn't care about what I'm doing. That's basically the way I am. So during a year, I make a selection, and now I'm choosing a top 7 selection out of my already done select. Now I do have a criteria that a synth app will have to fulfill in order for it to end up on the top 7 list, and that is I have to have used it more than all the other apps that I'm not putting on the lips on the list. And I should also have been using it to make music with. Yeah, those are the criteria. So with that out of the way, let's get to the first pick. First up, AudioKit Synth One. There should be no doubt in anyone's mind whether this was a success or not. Apple surely thought it was a success because they marketed it in a very nice way. You see, Apple made sure that AudioKit Synth One was loaded up on iPads in Apple stores across the US. Imagine that. It's a marketing dream. This is an open source project, and there's been a huge amount of developers writing the code for this, and then they're giving it away for free. Now, when Synth One was released, it was only available for iPad, but then, quite recently, this happened. Matthew Fetcher, one of the guys from AudioKit, posted this on his Facebook wall. This means that iPhone users will be able to download Synth One and use it on their phones too. How amazing is that, huh? To top it off, I discovered a hidden page which I showed in my video, my very thorough video for Synth One. Well, it happened to be something that were meant only for developers, kind of an extra page where they could test stuff and do stuff with it before officially releasing it. Well, they decided to name it after me or after this show, so that panel is now dubbed the haQ panel. Now, the AudioKit project is something that we should want to support. It can lead to some really interesting stuff since they're letting everyone use their code. As it is, we're seeing a lot of other developers being able to grab the code and make something new with it without having to pay anyone for it. And so in order for them to keep doing this, because they do have bills to pay, so if you want to support them, which we should do, then the right way of doing that, if you haven't yet, go and purchase a copy of D1, AudioKit D1, another one of their synthesizers. It's really great, it costs money, but when you're buying it, you're funding AudioKit. Now, if you want to know more about AudioKit Synth One and, learn its features, see what it's really all about, I've got a great, really thorough docututorial featuring that synthesizer. That video also includes bits and pieces from an interview that I did with Matthew Fasher himself, where he talks about making AudioKit One, the problems they had, how Apple managed. Well, you'll find out if you watch that video.
AudioKit has been going on for 5 years. It's a way for developers to write software that makes it easier to add audio to your apps. It's completely free and open source, and anyone could use the code, and anyone could add.
Now, before I start talking about my next top pick here, I just want to put in a little caveat that I should have started with. I know this list is called Top 7 Synthesizer Apps 2018 iPad and iPhone, and all of the apps that I'm going to talk about in this video are universal and available for both iPad and iPhone, except from this one. Right now, it's only available for iPad. My next top pick is Obsidian Synth that can be found inside Nano Studio 2. Unfortunately, this is not a standalone synthesizer, so it's not an AU3 or AUV3. It can't be loaded into anything like OM or Audio Bus, so you're pretty much locked into NS2. But if you go and watch my review for this synthesizer, then you're probably gonna run to the App Store and buy Nano Studio 2 just to get your hands on Obsidian. This synthesizer is absolutely incredible. No hyperbole. It's just incredible. It's a synth nerd's best friend on iOS. And there are stuff in here that I've never seen inside any other iOS synthesizer. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be synthesizers. So I contacted Matt Bostel, aka Blip Interactive, and said, hey, can you send me over a code? I'm not that interested in Nano Studio 2, but I'm really interested in your synthesizer. And the thing that made me interested at first, except from the looking good part, because it really does look good, it's really sleek looking. What was I saying? Yeah, the thing that really made me interested was the fact that it had a sample player in there, which I was wrong about. It turned out that it also had a sampler engine in there, which is great because now you can mix up samples with synthesis. And that's great when you want to do drum synthesis and mix it in with some drum samples. But for that, you need some great envelopes. And you know what? Obsidian has that. I'm losing my mind. Again, no hyperbole. I just kept digging into Obsidian Synth, and every stone I turned up had something interesting in it. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be under it. The LFO section contains a module which is called FM Sync. Stop. You're gonna turn this into a review, Jack. So you're not locked into using the same types of shapes that you usually have. I said stop. They get it. It's great. If you want to know more, just go check my review.
Okay, for the analog oscillator, I really wanted it to replicate those standard oscillator types that everyone's used to with analog synthesis. So I needed to cover the main waveforms. Now, those are actually generated.
Now, my next top pick comes from a developer who's been working really hard this year. He's been pushing out some really awesome effects apps, and I'm talking about Kai Aras, aka Numerical Audio, and he made Volt Synth. I made Volt Synth to kind of resemble the sound of the old school polysynths like the Oberheims. It even has a filter modeled after an Oberheim filter. And it sounds absolutely brilliant. Yes, the sound, the sound. And that's one of the reasons why I'm picking this one, because I've been using this to make music with. I've been working on something called the Mellow album, and these are basically really mellow tracks, which is very different from my normal style drum and bass or dubstep or the other types of EDM types of music that I make. What I discovered with Volt Synth was that I could make something that sounded like string sounds, and it just fit into my project like instantly. Every synthesizer has its own unique character, its own unique sound, its own unique behavior. And I can't really tell you specifically what it is that I like so much about the synthesizer. But, you know, all you have to do is to listen to it yourself and you'll know whether you like it or not. And I suggest you go and check out my review for Volt Synth. It's a docutorial-styled haQ episode, so of course there's also an interview in there with Kai Aras, in where he talks about the design choices that he made when he made Volt Synth. By the way, this synthesizer is fully MPE compatible, so if you're one of those C-board kind of players out there, then this synth is really great for you.
I started implementing the MPE spec and working on this synth, I don't know, two years ago or so, and just so I had a reason to buy a keyboard. Yeah.
Now I'm happy I waited so long with making my list, because that gave me the opportunity to really choose from all of the apps that came out during 2018. You see, if I would have made my list in November, beginning of November, or earlier than that, I would have missed out on, for instance, Obsidian in Nano Studio 2. But I would have also missed out on Noir by Bram Bose, the best iOS drum synthesizer ever. Okay, I would put it right next to DM2 by Audionomy, and they're simply sharing that first place spot because Audionomy's DM2 has some great drum synthesis in it, really great drum synthesis and drum filtering in it. Plus, it will allow you to do 9 drum instruments at once, while Bram Bose's app will only allow you to do 1 drum instrument with 1 instance of Noir loaded. But then again, Noir has so much else going on, like that intuitive sequencer, for instance. And the sequencer also allow you to mix up or modulate the oscillators and switch between them, and you can actually make it sound kind of poly-like. If you're an electronic musician, or if you're doing other types of music, you would all benefit from an instance of Noir inside your project. And if you're a beginner, a noob of sorts, just started out doing this iOS music thing, then an instance or two instances of Noir in an OM session or an audio bus session, just messing around with it, just amounts to hours and hours of fun. So just go check out my review of Noir if you haven't yet. You'll learn all you need to know about it, and you can find the link to it in the description as usual. With all of the stuff that I'm talking about, it's always down in the description. Now my next top pick is something granular, and in 2018 there were 3 amazing granular synthesizers that came out, and I actually have 2 of them on my list. And so the first one is SpaceCraft by Mark Watt. This thing was made by a rocket scientist, for reals. Now, SpaceCraft is something that I think everyone should have. It's really, really inexpensive, and Mark Watt really set that price on purpose because
I actually just went with my instinct on that, honestly. I kept thinking of putting it higher, but I just kept feeling I want a lot of people to use it. I'd rather there more people use it than I get more, profit from it. But at the end of the day, it was my instinct telling me £3, and so I just went with that.
If you're a beginner, complete noob, then you won't have a problem using this app. You just open it up and move some points around. If you're a pro, you'll find that you can do some really nice textures with this thing really quickly. So if I would summarize the strengths of SpaceCraft, then quick interface amounts to quick results with a great sound at a very low price. I mean, how can you argue with that? And also, it does look rather tasty, doesn't it? If you're not convinced yet, then I do suggest that you go and check out my really thorough haQ docutorial featuring SpaceCraft. And within it, of course, there's an interview with Mark Watts where you can hear him talk about his design choices. And not only that, Mark Watts was actually new to the iOS platform completely, and he even made a little mistake that he talks about in that interview. So go check out my video for it. Of course, the link is in the description.
One of the things about SpaceCraft is that a lot of the time when you're playing it, you're not actually doing granular synthesis per se. If you use really long duration grains, you're actually just layering lots of different frequency samples on top of each other. So that's like the bottom right.
Now my next top pick is another granular synthesizer, and I'm talking about Tardy by Eric Siegt. You see, Tardy has a built-in keyboard with some really interesting modulation capabilities that allows you to modulate a lot of the parameters inside Tardy through the keyboard itself. Not only that, it also has a pad-styled interface where you can play chords, and yeah, it's just amazing like that. Now, some of my longtime viewers knows that I don't play keyboard that well. And if you're a new viewer, hey, I don't play keyboard that well. So you might wonder, what use would I get out of Tardy then, since it was designed to be played as a conventional keyboard instrument? Well, it's a granular synth. It's not a piano. You don't have to play it really, really well in order for you to get great sounds out of it. It's got something in here called multipliers, and when you start fiddling around with it, it will drastically change the way it's playing back the sampled material that you're using for playback. Oh, I made a mess of that sentence. Either way, I did also sequence tardigrade a lot, and I used it for my mellow album. I do suggest that you go and check out my tardigrade featured video. It's a proper docututorial, so it's got a nice tutorial in there. It's got some nice background information, some really nice sound demos, and also an exclusive interview with Eric Siegt.
Well, I think the main difference for this one to other synthesizers is that each grain is played twice and they're kind of mixed together to create a sound that is as smooth as possible. So for each note.
And now for my last top pick. Right, so let's have a look at the last synthesizers I get to choose from. And I can see I made a mistake because there's 7 left and there should only be 6 since I said I had a top 12 list. Well, it turns out I actually had a top 13 list. Never mind, these are the synths that I have to choose just one from, because remember, this is a top 7 list. I've already done 6, and so the last pick is going to be Moog Model D. Oh god, it's so good. Jakob, you're breaking the rules. You didn't make any music with Moog Model D. Yes, but it doesn't matter, because what I did do was use it a lot. And I made several videos featuring Moog Model D, simply because I was having loads of fun with it. Not only with the synth, but with you all voting in the listening polls. Listening polls? Well, if you missed it, I made several comparisons between Moog Model D and Moog Model D clone and a non-Moog Model D clone, just to see if we could spot the difference. And then I had a poll and we voted, and most of us got it wrong. Then I also made a comparison between Moog Model D, the app, and Moog Model D, the hardware, with the help of Kai Aras. He actually owns one, and he recorded a video for me and also audio so that I could compare the two. And after checking the polls, a lot of us guessed it wrong again. And that's kind of the point of me rambling about this, because that means that Gert Bevin, the app developer who works for Moog and actually made Moog Model D, he did such a great job with it that a lot of us couldn't hear the difference. So that means that the Moog Model D app is a really good option if you cannot afford the hardware one. Of course, it's a difference, between having a hardware synthesizer and a software synthesizer. But if you already have an iPhone or an iPad at home and you want the Moog sound, but you can't afford the big one, then you can't go wrong with the app because it sounds absolutely great. I'll just put in these other synthesizers as honorable mentions because they are really, really good. But since I didn't use them as much as I used the other ones that I've already mentioned and shown you, well, they didn't get to be on the final list. But you should check them out too. Is this cheating? I don't know. I don't know if it's cheating. It's my content, so I get to do what I want. Now, 2018 brought us a lot of apps, and there were not only synth apps and drum apps and DAWs, no, there were also FX apps that came out, and some of them really changed the way I made music, so stay tuned for a top FX apps list of 2018. Yeah. Okay, so before I round this up, one thing I just have to say is that whenever I make one of these lists, I sometimes get, well, I many times get comments that kind of goes along the lines of, hey, what about, and then insert random name of whatever app that person thinks should have been on the list. Comments like that are boring, and before you get butthurt, just hear me out. Whenever you're typing something like that, and that's all you're typing, you're not really giving anyone any reason to care about what you're typing, because you're just giving an opinion without any reasoning behind it or any explanations on why that app is so good. So this is what I suggest. If you want to type a comment like that, then do that. But explain yourself. Explain why that app should be on a top list. Explain what it is about the app that you think is so great. Like, be really specific, because a lot of people come in, they see my list, they might disagree with it, they start checking through the comments, and so, you know, if they find your comment, hey, what about this app? Because it's much more helpful for everyone reading comments, because you're giving us a reason to really care about why your app choice is the best one. Now, if you like this video, if you think that this video was helpful in any way and you want to support me, then subscribing is of course a nice way of doing it. But one way you could really help out is by hitting that like button, because that tells YouTube that people like my content. You can also share my videos, and if you want to help support me in a more personal and financial way, then use Patreon. Something I will be doing a lot this year in 2019 is that I will be making a lot more behind the scenes footage available for my patrons. I've already started a little bit, and so if you become a Patreon, then you're going to be able to see what's going on behind everything. You know, inside the studio, me talking about projects that I'm working on, some issues that I'm hitting. You'll hear about me interviewing people before anyone else, and you know, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that's an incentive, I don't know. But if you want to help support me in that way, then use Patreon. If you don't want to use Patreon for whatever reason, use PayPal. If you don't want to use PayPal and you want to support me more directly, then you could always buy my music off Bandcamp if you find something that you like. And if you don't want to do any of that, then you don't have to. You could just keep on watching my videos. Thank you so much for watching. All comments and ratings are very much appreciated. Now, as usual, I wish you a very productive week. Now go finger all of your stuff and have a lot of fun doing it.